This past Sunday, the world witnessed a historic event in sports. Now, the World Cup itself is a huge thing, of course, is the most watched sporting event worldwide. But how big can it be when Lionel Messi, arguably the greatest footballer in mankind, arguably the greatest athlete of all time, lifts the one trophy that stopped his quest to complete football for the first time in what could arguably be the best World Cup final match ever? Just put all of that to mind for just a second here. Before I get into the hockey part of today's video, we need to briefly go over that match. The 2018 game between France and Argentina was also nuts, as both teams took turns leading and France would ultimately win the game and then the World Cup. But this game, Argentina just dominated, man. 2-0 after goals by Messi and Di Maria, and everyone is convinced that Argentina has it in the books. But then the next generation of football showed up when Kylian Mbappe got 2 goals for France to force extra time. Messi scored again, and Mbappe followed, and we're tied at 3, and then we go to pens, and Argentina wins. Just a lot of crazy stuff going on here. This was a masterpiece unfolding at the 2022 World Cup. It was a great tournament. It had a great ending, unless you're Brazilian or a Ronaldo fan. But seeing the greatest footballer lifting the trophy reminded me of something the NHL has not seen in some time. Their best player lifting their trophy. Where is Connor McDavid in the Stanley Cup? We already know how he's never been to a final despite being the NHL's best player, despite making the conference finals last year. But when do we see him make that extra jump to get there? So that's where I wanted to kind of go with today's video. I wanted to compare Lionel Messi's path to the World Cup with Connor McDavid's path to the Stanley Cup. Messi was 35 when he finally won the World Cup with Argentina, and Connor McDavid is 25 years old, and the goal for him is to win the Cup before he turns 30, as Lionel Messi would have wanted to win the Cup before he turns 40, so I guess that's your equivalency right there. The thing is, age does not really compare because we still see footballers at the age of 39 play really, really good, which isn't something you really see in the NHL. But like Messi, McDavid is going to need some help from his teammates. He needs his Sergio Aguero, he needs his Angel Di Maria, and his Emi Martinez. And for those who may not know what that means, he needs his sidekick Leon Draisaitl to continue doing what he's doing, and he needs Jack Campbell to start playing good hockey. He also may need help from management and potentially owner Daryl Kratz. Going back to Messi, this was pretty much his last World Cup. It's not officially been said yet, but considering he's 35 and would be 39 in the next one, and considering he just won the World Cup, I think it's best he retires with the victory. It doesn't mean he quits PSG though, just retiring from Argentina, but none of this came easy, let's be fair. Most of us were just praying Messi wins because we've seen the struggles he's gone through with Argentina. In 2006 and 2010, Messi and Argentina lost to Germany, and then in 2014, they make it to the finals to lose to guess who? Germany. Then Germany does awful in 2018, but then Argentina loses in the first round to France, as we mentioned earlier, and it's not just World Cups. He's also lost 3 Copa America finals before winning it in 2021. This guy has not had the easy ride with corrupt management and absolutely no defense. This story probably sounds very familiar to Oilers fans and Connor McDavid. We take a look at how the Oilers did since McDavid entered the league back in 2015. First year, they missed the playoffs. Second year, they make the second round but lose to Anaheim in 7 games. They miss the playoffs in the next 2 seasons, and they become an absolute monster when Leon Draisaitl has that Hart season. But then they lose in the qualifying round to a really surprising and underdog Chicago Blackhawks team that still had their experienced players on their roster. And then a year later, they lose to the Jets in the very first round. Then last year, they make it past LA in 6, past Calgary in 5, but will lose to the Colorado Avalanche in 4 games. All of this begs the question, will 2023 be McDavid's year? McDavid has been putting up career highs this year in terms of points and goals. Believe it or not, he's already hit 60-plus points, and it's not even Christmas yet. Despite he and Leon Draisaitl doing the usual by leading the league in points, the Oilers are not able to translate those high-end performances by Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl into first or even second place in their own division, which I talked about before, is super competitive. But as any Oilers fan or any sensible person would say, that's not even close to being Connor McDavid's fault, right? It's fair to say that the Oilers supporting cast needs to play better, as they pretty much follow the classic 1 step forward, 2 steps back saying, but what is with that defense? I mean, they need to tighten up a bit more, and I think the best way to do that is for Ken Holland to pick up that phone and get to work. It's time the Oilers go all in and bring in some help. McDavid is due to win the Cup eventually after all these years of heartbreak and tragic playoff exits, and it's very possible that this year could be the year we see Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl finally lifting the Stanley Cup together. But they need to play very good hockey in the second half of the season, and so does the rest of their team if they all want to have a shot of even winning the Cup. I'm kind of curious to see how long his patience lasts before he tells management the one thing that no Oilers fan would ever want to hear, not even in their nightmares. But hey, if they don't play their cards right, they may hear him wanting out. Let's not freak out our Oilers fans out here, but just get this. McDavid is in the prime of his career. The Oilers must do anything in their power to give him the best ability and the best chance of winning the Stanley Cup. There's that amazing trade deadline on March 3rd, 2023, and that could be a very disastrous or interesting day for the Edmonton Oilers. If Holland can pull off some steal trades, even a solid trade, they will have a shot at the Stanley Cup. One would rightfully assume that the cup for Edmonton could be coming home very, very soon. They reached new heights last year, and if McDavid continues to be him, he will be ready to increase his game to new levels than before, and that should certainly give the Oilers even a better shot of winning the Stanley Cup. Going back to football, I'll keep it real with you guys, it's very heartwarming to see Lionel Messi finally win that one trophy that never came to him easily, which is football's greatest prize, but we must understand one thing for sure. This is the part that Oilers fans may not want to hear. There's Lionel Messi, but at the same time, there's also Cristiano Ronaldo, a guy who, despite many say is the GOAT, won everything Messi did except the World Cup for Portugal. In the NFL, there's Tom Brady, but there's also Dan Marino. In the NBA, there's Michael Jordan, but there's also Patrick Ewing. And then in the NHL, there's Wayne Gretzky and Sidney Crosby, but there's also Marcel Dion and Jerome McGinley. My point being is that, there are great players out there who may never ever win the cup. I don't think this will be the case for Connor McDavid. He has defined himself to be Sidney Crosby 2.0, and although he never won a cup 3 years after getting drafted like Crosby did, he certainly will win one at some point. I'm very bullish about that. Now, whether he wins it in Edmonton is a different story, but if the Oilers want to win it with McDavid, they need to do anything and everything to create a better team for their captain. The old saying goes, the captain never leaves the ship, but the ship needs to be stronger if the captain wants to survive, right? But I personally think that Ken Holland has not done his full due diligence. Okay, yeah, he brought in Evander Kane and Zach Hyman, both have been very good with the Edmonton Oilers thus far, but I think now is the time that he tries the same thing, but for a defenseman. I have another video coming up about a potential Erik Karlsson trade and what the details surrounding that may be, but it's okay to give up some draft picks or prospects or even Jesse Puljujarvi in some sort of trade. It will hurt because he's a fan favorite, but it could all be worth it in the end, especially if Connor McDavid is hoisting the Stanley Cup over his head at the end of the year in a blue and orange jersey. If Lionel Messi could win the one thing that stopped him in his whole life, then the best player on the planet right now in hockey can win a Stanley Cup. So let me know what you guys think about Connor McDavid or Lionel Messi or anything else, honestly. Otherwise, thank you guys for tuning in and have a wonderful day. Ring, ting-a-ting-a-ling.